Okay, let's talk about procrastination. You know, that universal feeling, the shadow that follows pretty much every deadline we've ever had. We're going to unpack the actual neuroscience behind why our brains seem so determined to sabotage our own best intentions.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? You've got that huge report due, or maybe a tough conversation you've been putting off. And then, out of nowhere, your brain decides that the single most urgent task in the entire world is to alphabetically arrange your spice rack. What is going on there?
So here's the most important thing to get right off the bat. Procrastination isn't a character flaw. It's not about being lazy. It's not about bad time management. At its core, it's really an emotional regulation problem. It's a battle happening inside your own mind.
And that leads us to what we can call the procrastination paradox. It's this really strange logic that we use to justify delaying something, a logic that makes perfect sense in the moment, but honestly falls apart under the slightest bit of scrutiny.
This is the great lie we tell ourselves, isn't it? We look at a task, we feel this wave of anxiety or maybe just boredom, and we make a deal. We say, you know what, I'm not in the right headspace for this now. But future me is going to be motivated, well-rested, and totally ready to crush this. The only problem is, future me almost never gets the memo.
So why do we fall for this same trick every single time? Well, to understand that, we have to look at the chemistry. This isn't just some psychological quirk. It's a full-blown chemical battle happening between different parts of your brain.
And a big part of that battle comes down to dopamine. Now, we've all heard it called the pleasure chemical, but that's not quite right. It's more like the motivation or craving chemical. It's the little voice in your brain that says, hey, that felt good, do that again. It drives our anticipation of a reward.
And this is the loop that gets us stuck. Here's how it works. First, you face a tough task. Your amygdala, which is basically the brain's alarm system, flags it as a threat. So what do? You instinctively look for an escape. You open up social media, you watch a video, and boom, your brain releases a nice little hit of dopamine. It's a quick, easy reward. And your brain learns that avoiding the hard thing leads to a chemical treat, creating this powerful, really addictive cycle.
So you can really think of this as a battle between two competing systems in your head. You've got this impulsive, I want it now system that is just screaming for immediate gratification and that easy dopamine hit. And then you have the long-term planner, the part of your brain that's actually focused on your future goals. Procrastination is just what happens when the I want it now system wins that argument.
And when that impulsive system wins over and over and over again, we start to rack up some serious costs. The price of putting things off until later is so much higher than we think.
And here is the biggest irony of all. We procrastinate to avoid negative feelings, right? Like stress and anxiety. But delaying the task doesn't actually make the stress go away. It's like you're just putting it on a credit card. You get a tiny moment of relief right now, but you are accruing interest in the form of guilt and mounting pressure that you are absolutely going to have to pay back later.
This quote just captures the emotional reality of it perfectly. That totally manageable task you put off, it doesn't stay manageable. It just sits there, in the back of your mind, marinating in guilt and anxiety until it grows into this terrifying monster that feels completely impossible to face.
Now, get this. This isn't just a personal productivity problem. This fundamental brain flaw, our deep preference for immediate reward over long-term pain, has been exploited on a massive global scale. A perfect and pretty scary example is the subprime mortgage crisis.
I mean, the pitch was perfectly engineered to appeal to that I want it now part of our brain. Get the house of your dreams today, no money down. It was an irresistible immediate reward. The long-term consequences, the crippling debt, the financial ruin, all of that felt abstract and really far off. The system tapped directly into our brain's procrastination circuit, and the results were catastrophic.
So if our brains are literally wired this way, are we just doomed? No, not at all. The key is to stop fighting our brains and start working with them. And for that, we can actually take a lesson from the ancient Greeks.
This brings us to a fascinating idea called a Ulysses Contract. So in the Odyssey, the hero Ulysses knew he wouldn't be able to resist the siren's deadly song. So what did he do? He made a decision in a moment of clarity. He had his crew tie him to the ship's mast. He voluntarily limited his future self's freedom to protect himself from his own worst impulses.
We can do the exact same thing today. A modern Ulysses contract could be something like using an app that blocks distracting websites for a few hours. Or maybe it's prepaying for an exercise class so you're financially committed to going. It could even be as simple as telling a friend your deadline to create some social pressure.
You're basically tying your own hands to guide your future self toward the right choice.
And what this all shows us is that not all feel-good chemicals are created equal. You've got the cheap, superficial hit of distraction dopamine that comes from avoiding a task. But then there's completion dopamine, that deep, genuine satisfaction you get from actually finishing what you set out to do, clearing the guilt and keeping a promise to yourself. That is the reward we should be chasing.
So this is the final choice it all comes down to. The next time you feel that pull, that urge to put something off, just pause for a second and ask yourself this question. Are you choosing a little bit of convenience right now, or are you choosing to pay a much bigger bill of anxiety later? Because you're not really choosing to do it later. You're just choosing to pay for that tiny moment of relief with a whole lot of stress. The real piece is on the other side of the finished task.